It's Thursday night, everybody. Thanks for stopping by. Give us your ears to listen tonight as we talk about some subjects that you probably didn't know you were interested in or plain just didn't care. But we're going to force you to care about them this Thursday. I am Ash Hamilton of HorrorFix.com. I've got Chode McCrappen with me in the studio. In our annex, I've got Samantha, just one name like Prince. I've got Rob, our East Coast correspondent. And tonight, we are pleased to announce we have a guest with us, filmmaker, all-around good guy, Bill Howard. How is everybody doing tonight?
Good.
Very good, sir.
I was going to say, if Steve was the only person that just said good, just a tiny little good.
Just a little tiny good, yeah.
In the background. You know, I think tonight should be a night of references that no one under 30 will understand.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I almost made a Fievel from American Tail reference when you said good. I almost did. Nobody would know what the hell that was.
I would.
Look at Sam just staring off into the distance.
I mean, we could go in the pipe 5x5. But...
We've got a wonderful show planned for you. We're going to be talking about Bill Howard's films. We're going to be talking about that rash of Robs that won't go away. We'll also be talking about UFOs and ufology in general. A lot has happened in the past year, kiddos, and we're going to talk about it tonight. So first and foremost, what we always do on the show, let's get this rolling because I believe we've got some news. Do we not, Rob?
Oh, we do.
Okay, we're going to roll that beautiful news footage.
Our favorite cryptid is added.
What?
Huh?
Okay. Oh, no, I was getting a lot of like sign language from the rest of the crew.
Oh.
Maybe there was
like what kind of sign language? Like one finger intentive sign language?
I think it was good job on rolling the news footage right in the middle of Rob's sentence.
That's what it was, yeah.
That's okay.
There was a lot of thumbs up, bit of a ticker tape parade, a lot of applause.
Okay. Well, it's just our favorite cryptid added again is basically what it boils down to. So coming to us from News Channel 8 in Brevard County, Florida. A Florida man was arrested after deputies said he hit cars with a tire iron and threw a barbecue grill at them in a road raid incident. Brevard County deputies said they were called to the intersection of School Street and Bay Avenue in Cocoa on Tuesday for a road rage incident. Witnesses reported that a gray Chevy Tahoe was parked in the middle of a road and then began ramming vehicles as drivers tried to get around him. The suspect, later identified as Raymond Hoffman, and the picture that goes along with this story is lovely, got out of his SUV and started to strike vehicles as they passed with a tire iron, even breaking the driver's side window of a passing truck. Brevard County Sheriff said they learned that Hoffman was armed with a nail gun and was threatening people at the scene.
Of course.
When deputies arrived at the scene, they said they found Hoffman armed with a crowbar. When given commands to drop the crowbar, deputies said Hoffman told them, "You will have to kill me." Because that's the hill you want to die on. You know, wow. I'm not dropping my crowbar. Fucking kill me. Because that's my hill right there. If it was a hammer, I drop it. A wrench, I drop it. Crowbar, nope. I'm dying on that hill. Oy. Apparently, he did not get the memo that if you run from Brevard County Sheriff Departments, you're only going to go to jail tired, Sheriff Wayne Ivey said. So 3 deputies chased Hoffman, and during the
Sheriff Wayne Ivey having a good sense of humor.
Right. 3 deputies chased after Hoffman, and during the chase, Hoffman allegedly threw a chair and a barbecue grill at the deputies.
And was this a Weber? Like, what kind of grill are we talking about? Gas, propane?
It doesn't say.
So he threw a chair and a grill. I have a feeling this is just like street tacos and a big foam finger away from being a tailgate party.
Right.
Are we close?
Exactly. It was just a bunch of people started lining up on the side of the street, getting ready to see him get taken down. And,
right. There was beer pong.
I want to know, was he making ribs? Was it hot dogs, burgers? I'm hungry.
I feel like this does beg more details.
Yeah,
it does. And the problem is that it's been reported on like 5 different Florida news channels, this is the most in-depth of all of them.
Well, I mean, Florida has so much more in-depth stuff on other stories. They got to condense it down. I mean, Florida Man is there.
I'm just telling you that, Ash, if you can share the picture from the story I sent you, the dude looks lovely in the picture. I mean,
I will try to find it before the end of the episode.
This should be his farmers only
Not
profile.
before the end of the bit, but before the end of the entire episode.
This has got to be this farmers only profile pic right here. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this.
Like, I just love the fact that he had to ramp up the mayhem. Like, first it was a chair, and then he said to himself, what if this motherfucker sits down?
Right.
So then he throws the grill.
Right.
This is not a casual fight. It's not a leisurely fight. You don't have to sit down. You don't. No. If you get winded, you got to cook. That's what's going to happen.
It just kills me that, like, the sheriff had the great sense of humor that if you're going to run away, you're just going to go to jail tired.
I mean, I would think that any sheriff in Florida has to, at this point, have a good sense of humor.
Well, if the last story that we did when the kid used the gator to shotgun a beer,
right?
That police officer was not chill. He was kind of a dick.
Like he doesn't get it yet. He doesn't really get where he's at.
He just transferred in.
Like, and here's another reference for a generation that won't listen to the show again. But I kind of feel like that sheriff didn't realize he was on the island yet of Lost.
Right.
Right. He hadn't come quite to the recognition yet of where he was at.
Yeah. And he was, still trying to get off the island, not realizing that there was no off the island.
No, he transferred in from a quiet little precinct just south of Nashville. Now he's in Florida, still in disbelief. This is his precinct 13. This is how it works. You don't get out of Florida.
Like is this where the sheriff was flipping the coins and it landed on the end? Like, and then Rob Starling came out and started saying, "Yep, you're, in a different Twilight Zone here."
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Did you see that signpost up ahead? It's fucking Florida. Wait,
that
what?
makes sense.
Oh my God, what?
I totally get it now.
Okay, now the gears of the show are grinding to a halt. Bombshell just dropped on the show. Is this true?
Yes.
Our very own Samantha is from Florida.
Well, she left, so that's a great sign.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, it offers hope to others.
Yes.
Yes.
Can
That's true.
Can you imagine being the cop that has to show up to the teenager with an alligator, using the alligator to shotgun a beer, and then 2 weeks later, you're chasing some guy through somebody's backyard and he throws a fucking grill at you?
Well, and you gotta feel like these events are connected. Right. Because what if he threw the gator, already had a beer, and you had the grill beforehand and the chair?
Right.
Because that, to me, that just sounds like a Sunday.
The worst part of the whole thing with the gator was that the gator was still attached to the can, if you guys remember.
Oh, I do.
Dude was holding the gator.
I'm
holding the can, and he was shot.
Right. If he hadn't hurt the alligator, I would have been impressed.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty impressive.
There is still a victim here, albeit it's the alligator.
Right. It's, absolutely, but
this is not a victimless crime, unfortunately.
Well, so the gator was marinated in the beer. He was grilling the gator. That's what happened.
I feel like we just got out of a really fucked up escape room.
Yes. Florida. Sam did get out of a really fucked up escape room.
Except for I go back every year, so.
Somebody cracked the code. Either that or she's on like a work release program that she has to go back every year.
I plead the fifth.
There's no.
We did say it was Brevard County. That's where they don't know who they voted for as well, correct?
Yes.
I feel it's bad.
There we go.
Listener Lee Hurt says that he thought the beer was the victim. Although I'm guessing that it is in Florida, so what were they drinking? Olympia? Very possible.
Could be.
Anything that comes anything that comes in a 30 pack and you don't care if they get the number wrong. That is probably what you're drinking.
All right, real quick. I've got one of the best beer stories ever, right? I'm at the local Walmart.
This is not going to be real quick.
It is. I'm at the local Walmart, and typical Walmart lines, 20 people
Can
long.
we have
right?
like you can't do that on television, like slime moment or something when anybody on the show says, this will be real quick?
Well, because you're interrupting me.
I got to, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's not my fault.
All right.
Just that it happens.
So I'm in line, 20 people in line in front of me. Next to me, I hear the telltale of a beer opening.
Oh, yeah.
I look over, gotta be an 80-year-old dude sitting in his little hover around scooter with a beer in his hand. And I'm staring at him. Dude looks up at me and goes, want one? Like,
because that would have been the only gripe.
right.
That was the only thing wrong.
So the manager decides to come up and tell the dude, you can't open that in the store. He goes, what are you going to do? Throw me out? Like, there you go.
Somebody's writing a folk song about that guy
Right.
as we speak.
You know,
Does he get a DUI if he drives in the parking lot?
I don't know, but at that
That's a
particular
good
point in time, I
question.
don't think he cared. He had his 30 pack of Genesee Light in between his legs, popping one in line, and it's, you know,
If your speed is in the single digits, what's the probability of getting a ticket for D&D? Anybody
in
know?
Florida.
I don't. No.
Okay. So I will say, in addition to that, is that prior to the 4th of July, I did visit one of the world's biggest fireworks stores, and I was there when it opened, and there was a guy drinking while buying fireworks.
Sounds legit.
Yeah.
At least
and
he wasn't
said,
smoking.
well, not while I was present. But I will say, I think he had a pack in his top pocket.
Why do I get the feeling that 12 hours or so after that, there was an incident where he arrived at the emergency room and his thumb arrived separately?
I will say that this is the second year in a row that I've been to this place, and last year there was a stabbing.
Is it in Florida?
This was in Missouri.
Oh, wow. Okay.
A spiritual sister to Florida on some occasions. So, we have a wonderful show lined up for you tonight. Now that we're 20 minutes deep and we have no coherent direction, we have Bill Howard. He's a filmmaker. Something Walks in the Woods, as well as others we will be discussing tonight. You can watch his current film on many different streaming platforms. Some people even gave it good reviews. So congratulations, Bill, because we know it gets rough out there. As a fellow filmmaker, it gets rough out there, Bill. It gets very rough. So we want to congratulate Bill for his thick skin and for showing his face after introducing art to the public. And we're going to be talking about his films tonight, as well as dabbling in UFOs and ufology, because it's been a big year for Little Green Men. So welcome, and thanks so much for sitting through what some may say was the first 2 hours of the show.
Well, I mean, it kind of was, wasn't it?
We say it's the fastest hour on the internet because for the first hour, we're just working out technical snafus here in the office. We're not even live. We're like, wow, that went by really quickly.
It did. How we like to do things.
So tell us a little bit, Bill, about where you're from, your journey as a filmmaker. I like saying journey. I like that. Your journey as a filmmaker, and your connection to UFOs and the paranormal. Let's hear it.
All right. Well, first of all, you said you kind of wanted to play back to 30 years, and you keep mentioning journey.
Yeah. Again, we're tonight.
If I can throw Boston and Chicago in there somewhere, we've got it.
We're putting on earbuds from our Zune.
Oh, absolutely.
We're cranking up some journey, and there's no looking forward. There's only looking back. That's all we do tonight.
Just so we know, you said Missouri man, so I started hitting. I just, Googled Missouri Man. I think we might take a break from Florida Man next show and go with Missouri Man, because there's some freaking good
Yeah,
stories.
this might end up being a heated competition.
It could be. I think Missouri Man it could be really close. It's not bad.
Both equally disoriented.
Columbia Man charged after report of indecent exposure inside the front of a restaurant. I don't want to know. It was at a Steak and Shake. It was at a Steak and Shake.
Of course it was. Of course it was. And
At
you
least
know,
it wasn't Uranus Fudge Factory.
Okay, thank you.
I will say, because
true.
he hadn't even been seated yet, and he had both the steak and the shake.
There it was. I knew it was coming.
Yeah, we saw that one down the highway, right?
Yes, we did.
Like you could hear it shift gears. It was pulling in. Yeah, it was pulling in quick.
Sorry.
So let's reiterate.
I will be
Bill
good.
Howard, our guest tonight. If you could just give us a bit of background about yourself and who you are as a filmmaker, and again, maybe your interest in the paranormal and UFOs, and again, I don't know how deep that interest runs, because I know it's a topic of your films, and occasionally we do see that cross-pollination of people who have an avid interest and then insert it into their art. So just take us along, take us on a trip, Bill Howard.
Let's see if we can do this and keep it interesting, more interesting than the first 40 minutes that we've had here.
Wow.
We're just
It's all down here from here.
remember, one of our co-hosts' name is Chode McCrappen. I think we all knew what we were getting into tonight.
Ashton, relating back to film, you said we have to have thick skin. You get through that intro, and then it's all downhill from there.
Oh yeah. You got you got to have thick skin as a filmmaker, definitely.
Well,
because everybody chimes in on it, right?
My journey, I guess I got to kind of combine everything here. I was an outdoors columnist for 16 different newspapers over a 10-year period. And so I went to school to become a journalist. And then I got into automotive somehow, and I was in automotive service management for 20 years. But toward the last part of that, I started writing. And so I knew how to write. I won a camera I chose a camera off an awards packet that I got from General Motors. And that was so I could start supplementing my outdoor stories a little bit with better stuff than what I can do with a cell phone. And 6 weeks after my first paid gig with the camera, I went full-time photography, and that was 8 years ago. 8 years ago this week. And then 2 years ago, I got into filmmaking, mainly because I was interested in time lapses. And that's kind of what brought me to here. Now, as far as paranormal, my first film that I wrote, the first feature I wrote was The Great Dismal. And it's a Bigfoot story. And I kind of joke with people that it's just now in distribution. So it's not live yet, but 4 or 6 weeks, right? And I joke with people, it's kind of a Scooby-Doo mystery. At the end, you pull the mask off Farmer John. But you write what you know, and I was an outdoors columnist, so that's what got me into doing the Bigfoot stories. And while I was waiting for Great Dismal to finish, we started filming in the winter. We came into late spring with it, so everything turned green in the swamps. And it's based in the Great Dismal Swamp in North Carolina. So I had to halt filming and then continue this year. During that time, I said, well, I'll write some other stuff based on what I know or communication I've had with people. And the first was The Incredulous Case of Aliens, the U.S. Government and Arnie Smith, which is based on a true story. And so I wrote it out, got 3 actors to do my parts for it, so I could test distribution. You understand having to deal with distribution.
Yes.
And then I had time to do another film, so that was Something Walks in the Woods, and that's that was based off a viral TikTok where we had a figure walking across the edge of the woods and, every day. So I made my own figure that walked across the edge of the woods every day and put the story behind it. So yeah, I've always been interested in the occult, the paranormal, that type stuff. I've also got a docu-series called Encounters, which, we're going to talk about UFOs and UFOlogy. So 3 years ago, excuse me, is when the government said that, hey, UFOs are real. And I spoke with a person that I was doing a photo shoot with, and that's where the incredulous case came from, is that conversation. But he was a CIA agent, and his role was in the four corners. And basically, when somebody went missing, he would find out the name first. If it was somebody that wasn't on a list, then it would go to the SBI or the local law enforcement. If it was on the list, they were picked up by the Mexican drug cartel. They were killed by coyotes in the desert, whatever. But if it was on the list, he was inferring that they were abducted. And so Encounters came about because if the government's now saying UFOs are real, does that mean alien abductions are real? It at least makes it more plausible at that point.
We've had some weird things happen, and when I say weird, not necessarily the idea of it just being weird, which it is. All of this stuff is very, very strange, very, very weird. But I think what we've had that we haven't had before, and we've discussed this briefly on another show, is that the government's always taken a stance of plausible denial, and it's been an easy stance for them. They've done it for so long that at this point it's expected. We don't expect our government to come forward and say, hey, we don't know what this is, or this could be extraterrestrial. What we expect is again that plausible denial, and we expect it to the nth degree. And we're experiencing now an entirely different kind of language that I don't think we've ever heard from our government. And this is what is really very quizzical for me. I'm very curious as to why it is happening. Is that suddenly, instead of sticking to this rule book, this guidebook that they stuck to since, officially since the 40s.
Yeah, weather balloons and gas,
right?
And swamp.
Yeah.
It's just
swamp gas and Venus. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Which sounds like an STI. So there's all of these things that they've been doing for years and years that they could continue to do. No one. There's really no public outcry. I mean, we don't have riots in the streets about the existence of extraterrestrials. Nope. We've got riots for different reasons. So suddenly we have this narrative that's stuck for decades, but now it's them saying, when we shot down, 3 objects within 72 hours. Yep. And we had senators and we had other representatives coming forward and actually saying these words. We still don't know if it's extraterrestrial or not. We never had that kind of language from government officials, ever.
Who was the dude that tried to set up the storming of Area 51? I can't remember his name right now.
Oh, yeah. He was... Forgot about that. Oh, I don't remember his name either.
But
right.
He tried to set up the storming of Area 51, and it was just like a bunch of people went, nah, it's okay, dude. We're cool.
It was a little ill-fated. I also don't think that they had any sponsors, is where I think most events probably go south.
See, now, if we had, Olympia Beer sponsors.
Olympia Beer, Nathan's Hot Dogs.
Right.
I'd even go for Shasta. Anything that would bring in some numbers. We didn't have any of it. Right. But yeah, this whole narrative is adding a different language, which to me is a whole other layer of complexity because we're not used to hearing it. We're not used to hearing it from government officials, and we're not used to hearing it without an ulterior story coming days after. We had 3 objects that was it 3 or 4? Does anybody know?
We started off with the one that was shot down at Myrtle Beach, and then we had 3 more that were shot Canada or US.
And them offering information and offering data is again very bizarre. because we actually offered up a lot of the audio from the pilots' cockpits. One of the pilots actually saying, "I don't know what this is, but it's not a balloon, and we're not for sure what's propelling it. We're not for sure how it's staying in the air." So being offered information is weird because we're not used to it. Hearing a different kind of language, even weirder because we're not used to it. And then not hearing, some kind of cover story coming out days later where they're, redacting that information is another layer of weirdness for me. So it begs the question, is there something that is so, and this is my question anyways, my question is there something that is so out of control that events are happening with such rapidity and they're happening outside of the sphere of what any government knows about, that governments are having to backpedal because they realize that they're on the cusp of a PR nightmare? I think that, to me, I've got to think then that this is out of control. Maybe we've got so much up there at one time that now we're looking at the numbers are too big. We are going to see more crashes. We've had more footage.
There's just thousands of spaceships surrounding.
It's just
right now.
like a ton of shit. I mean,
well, I almost have this theory that the movie Paul, Simon Pegg,
right?
Where I almost have this like theory in the back of my head that they're prepping us right now. Like there is something that's happening or about to happen that without these little prep stories coming in advance, it would just be too much for humanity to handle.
It's almost like they're testing the waters, right?
Yeah, right. Like they're throwing out, those little, tidbits to see if we're going to snack on them. And then if we snack on them, then they feel, okay, well, we can, reveal this.
And I'm curious here because, Bill's obviously worked in the media for a while. Is this something that you've seen a lot, Bill, where it's, we're taking a hard right on a certain narrative because we realize that the trajectory is completely different now?
Well, it's like the person I spoke to that was the CIA agent. He said, well, two things really stuck out to me from that. One is when President Carter was in office, he wanted to see the stuff about Area 51. And they wouldn't give him the file. And he said, well, look, I'll defund every department that the government has in the military unless I get this file. Well, he said, Mr. President, you don't understand. You don't have clearance for that. And he's like, I'm the GD president, right? And he said, no, you're a temporary employee.
Mm.
Okay.
And okay, that's legit. But the second thing was, even think back to, what is it, MK Ultra? The government will even feed their own employees misinformation to steer you completely away from what's happening. So with the sightings that we're starting to see now, with what's being shot down, or what happened in Las Vegas, one of two things, and neither one of them make you feel comfortable inside. Is it, are we really starting to experience alien contact on the regular? That's scary. And the other part is the government hiding something so extreme that they're trying to persuade us because they think us believing in aliens is better?
And that scares the absolute shit out of me, Bill. Because if aliens is the cover narrative,
what's the real story?
What in the world is going on?
Yeah.
And even if it's militaristic, meaning that they have the technology, and so it's better to have everybody believe that it's aliens doing this so that Russia and China doesn't realize that we have the capability. right?
Right.
That's a possibility. But I mean, okay, so the big movie that's coming out, Oppenheimer, right?
Right. Yeah.
They, there was a faction of scientists that thought that once we did this, once we split that atom, it was going to continue going on, and it would basically be the end of the universe.
Right.
What was the?
If we got some type of anti-gravity or something like that, and we don't control it. I mean, the same thing with the collider. When they started doing the collider, they thought it was going to be the end of the world.
What was the movie that it was like? I can't remember the movie right off the top of my head, but I was like, we did something on Earth that was a signal to other contact, right? It was that signal that we had gotten to that point, and it was like, okay, here we go, it's on now. Are we to that point? And
you have a lot of, we're trying to send these signals out right now, and you've got some of the brains and especially theoretical science, they're saying you do not want to do this. I mean, Stephen Hawking said, we don't want other civilizations to know that we're here.
Right. And that's concerning. I think I think there's concern on every level. I think that if we were being visited by an intelligence that had an altruistic reason to be here, let's say it was a mission of kindness and generosity and compassion, then all of this, let's face it, all this fucking cloak and dagger about if they are here or if they aren't here probably wouldn't have happened. Because it is a cloak of deception. It is. So you've got you've got our race who we all know we willingly participate in lies on it on a daily scale, right? I mean, we don't have shit figured out. Like, let's face it. So we're either fantastic entertainment and somebody up there is watching it going, are we gonna get a new season of Earth? Because I swear to God, if they cancel on this cliffhanger, I'm gonna fucking kill myself. So if there might be somebody out there, in which case, like, I'm all for it. I think that's hilarious that we're just the butt of a joke. At least in
we survived COVID
or another country, right? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that had to have been like their favorite season, right? And they were like, I don't know, 2023 is a bit of a letdown.
So Ash, you're sitting over there going, so what's the villain of the week?
Yeah, right.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, are we literally like, keeping up with the Earthlings? Is it like, are they holy shit, look what they did this week? You are not going to believe. Oh my God, look who they elected president. What the fuck?
Rob, I've got it for you.
Okay.
They gave us Florida Man, and now they're doing the spin-off to Missouri Man.
There you go.
This is what we're not just a show, we're a fucking network.
Right.
We are prime time. We have all the programming you could ever want to have. At some point, they're sitting there
going,
The Truman
Show has nothing on us.
Right.
No. And if they are engineering any of this, there is a bullpen of the universe's best and worst writers going, where do we go from Tide Pods? Where do we go, Larry?
Well, actually, are they participating in the strike? That's the big thing.
No, I think this is purely this might purely just be a human thing.
Right.
But they might have engineered it though.
Right.
Where they're like, let's see what happens to their stories when there are no stories.
Right.
And an eyebrow gets raised, and then it's story by committee.
It's from They Live. We don't have the Roddy Piper sunglasses. So somewhere in one of those writers' rooms is, one of us.
I'm all out of bubble gum though.
Right. Yeah. You got no choice.
Right.
So this is a question I have for Bill too, because I also think that we're in a time now where unfortunately information just can't be controlled, and I think that might be part of this. I think it might be part of this. Like I was talking with Steve the other day, and the sort of the conversation that we had was related to, okay, so what happens when you're on a plane 20 years ago and an airplane and a UFO clips the wing, right? And your plane goes down. So that information flow 15 years ago was more controlled. You didn't have Wi-Fi on the plane, or it wasn't very good yet. You didn't really have the ability to call someone in a second. So that information could be easily controlled. You know, they find the source of the information and they say, okay, this can't go out. This can't come out. We're going to confiscate. You know, we got the black box. We've got everybody's phones. But today, with the way that we stream, how we stream, the availability for connection, sooner or later, there's going to be events that happen in real time, right?
I mean,
Sooner or later, we don't
Facebook
have
Live, the whole crash.
Yeah, we
right
don't
from the plane.
exactly. We don't have the option to dial it back and crowd control. We don't have that option anymore. So, Bill, when you were doing Something Walks in the Woods, the idea of this viral video, you know, how close do you think we are to evidence? I mean, because it sounds like we're right there. I mean, the stuff that we had, you mentioned earlier, the stuff that was going on in Las Vegas, which was insane.
Yeah.
So
Lots of video from that.
So the idea of this viral video in Something Walks in the Woods. So tell us first a little bit about the film, and then let's talk about the importance of viral video when it comes to our belief system. And is it just entertainment, or is this factual record?
Something Walks in the Woods, like I said, it's based off of a figure that walks through the edge of the woods every day. And basically I had, you know, I don't know how, when you write your scripts and stuff, I have some visuals that I want. I'm a photographer.
I'm just joking.
Write a script? What?
Me write a script.
Just stick a camera out and let's see what happens. This is a TV show already, right?
Right.
But I have visuals in my mind. So how do I get there? Like, so I had the visual of the tent with the fireplace, and then just the night around me, you know, just negative space, darkness. And I wanted to investigate stuff periodically where I would leave the light of the campfire, because I don't have money for special effects. So I have to bring that dread and, you know, that feeling other ways. So that's how I ended up writing it. And so we have the Tuscarora Indian tribe that was here in North Carolina that eventually combined with the Iroquois up in New York. And their creation myth, it's told two different ways, but basically you have the sun goddess, which is the mother, and she has two offspring, the left-hand twin and the right-hand twin. The right-hand twin was all that was good in the world. The left-hand twin was the one that caused famine, caused war, you know, that type of stuff. So I envisioned it where, and that's the big spoiler thing here, right? I envisioned it where the figure that's walking along the edge of the woods is the right-hand twin. The left-hand twin is inside the woods. And when I spend the night inside the woods, that's why everything goes south.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right.
So, too, Bill, I really did enjoy the visual of that, the edge of the woods. Yeah, that was really, really neat.
And I mean, honestly, it's a $350 film. But Ash, you know, you understand, if you can get on Tubi, it's not a $350 film anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Especially when you start hitting that, you know, that first 5 to 10 in your carousel. So, but that helps fund more things. It means I don't have to act by myself. I can pay actors.
Right. Yeah. People think that we're just trying to get some of the spotlight. It's out of necessity.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't wake up and go, God damn, there's a face for movies. No, I woke up and went, I'm always going to be here. So I might as well star in this damn thing.
But hey, it works, you know. And it's, you know, the hardest part for me was running the camera and being in the scenes, because
yeah.
I didn't have crew. I didn't have audio crew, anything like that. Now, going back to what you said, as far as what does it mean overall? Okay, what's the other thing that everyone is talking about at this point? What's the Writers Guild on strike for? Artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So eventually, yes, the government's going to have plausible deniability again. It's AI.
And
what happens when AI takes over the internet and starts throwing up these things?
You right now, Bill, that's a fantastic point that you just made. And that maybe is one connection that I haven't even been thinking. Is these two things gaining more and more relevance at the same time?
Right.
And again, is this that thing where we have gotten to the point where we have tripped whatever buzzer it was to this outside whatever, and now we've announced that we're ready, or we are at this point, and it's time. And you know what I mean?
And look, whether you are right or left leaning, it doesn't matter. Everyone should realize that there is a deep state or a swamp or whatever term you want to use.
Yeah.
You know, Marco Rubio coming out, and I think he was one of the first senators that was asking about the UFOs and, you know, the reports and stuff. It could have easily been a staffer that was told to make him, hey, I heard something, just to send us down that other tangent.
Right.
That's one of the most difficult things too, for me anyways, and I think probably for a lot of Americans is, and maybe this is part of the scheme, this is part of the overall plot, is that there's so much disinformation that you don't know what to believe, that you're stuck in this perpetual just state of, you know, what you feel like, I guess, is just a slave to the bigger companies that run the media, because you don't know what their agenda is, you don't know what their angles are, and is that going to align with the truth? Is it going to not align with the truth? I think there's so many variables in this thing that by the time you get interested enough to maybe choose a side, you know, and you form an opinion, that really the information that you decide, you know, is truthful, really is just a leap of faith. Like every bit, every small bit, every large bit, it's all a leap of faith. This rings true to me, therefore I think I'm going to believe it. Therefore I think this is something that I'm going to incorporate into my personal mythology. This is going to become part of my research, because in the end, it really does feel like we can't believe in anything. And that lends itself again to this idea of, you know, images that are unreal.
It sometimes seems like a little bit of a magic show. Look over here. Look over here.
Yeah.
It's shiny over
And
here.
meanwhile, your hand, exactly.
Yeah.
Pay no attention to the man behind.
There's nothing here.
And again, it's that I still go back to, are we being prepped for something coming next?
So, so let's take this and let's go down a very, very dark rabbit hole. Okay.
We're not.
Which is what my general practitioner said on Thursday.
So, where we're going.
Rob, just let me have that one.
Okay.
Just that one. That's it. That's all I wanted.
All right.
I've been waiting 44 minutes to say it.
Did you mean?
I thought it was going to be the German Scheiser video that we're.
I don't have a dedicated proctologist.
No, I do.
Just a general
That's
practitioner.
Weird.
Okay. My general practitioner is sort of like a jack of all trades. I just walk in, it's like, what you want today? And I'm like, probably some butt stuff. That's all right.
And you're not really sure if he's lost his puppy, are you?
And then he puts a new plaque on the wall. He's like, good enough? And I'm like, sure.
You know.
Last name wasn't Weinstein.
Yeah. Like, let's get those pants off, Doc. Okay. So if we're talking about the worst thing that could come next, we're going to go down some dark rabbit holes here. So I am going to give everyone what they want, and that is the pants shitometer.
And shithole meter. Jesus Christ.
Aren't we all better now that we've seen the pants shitometer? Okay, so pant shitometer is essentially what's some of the worst things that we've seen. Tonight we're going to mix it up a little bit. And on the pant shitometer, we're going to try to hit a 10 of what could it be? What is the worst possible thing that maybe they're obscuring, they're keeping from us, or they're prepping us for? Samantha, go.
Oh, I don't know.
Our silent partner.
Anything?
What would be one of the worst things? Like what if, or is it aliens? Is aliens the worst thing? I mean, or is it that we have created AI and there's a small legion of robots out there that are really mad, just really mad.
That's what I'm going
I'm gonna
with.
go with AI.
You're gonna go with the AI.
After watching Megan, I'm going with AI.
AI is
Megan
that's up there
affected
for
you,
me.
didn't it?
Megan fucked me up.
Megan affected Samantha. I don't. Have we all seen it? Have you seen
Yes.
Megan yet, Rob?
Yeah.
Did you see Megan? Bill?
Yeah, the dance.
Right.
Yeah, right.
There's so many pedophile jokes that I'm not going to talk about on the show because it was weird because it's a little girl, but wasn't the dance sort of sexualized? Am I wrong? Wasn't that part of it? Wasn't that
creepy.
what made it weird?
Made it weird. It made it come
Right?
comfortable and creepy. Yes.
Isn't
Yeah,
that sort
it
of what
made it really
It was, yeah.
And
Do you feel that way, Samantha? That the dance was sort of a sexualized kind of thing?
Maybe a little bit.
A little bit, and that made it weirder for me.
It
Right?
wasn't like the end of Orphan, though.
No.
True.
I haven't seen that in a long time. I don't even remember.
And this obviously is how horrible my first world problems are. Is that I watch Megan and I'm like, they sexualize that robot's dance.
I just thought of mommy issues.
Not the fact that it's a killer robot that is literally massacring everyone in its path. I'm like, that's fine, but that dance.
I think that's kind of what they were trying to get at is the killer robot thing.
That's not going to be at our Fall City Hawkins outing.
I think
Too
that's the
risky.
scariest thing though is just the idea of AI and what it could become and the things that could happen from it. I mean, it's
Like the mimicking the banks.
yeah. I mean, we've already got this AI stuff that like with filters. That's all technically that's part of that AI thing.
Oh,
It-
think
I
about
mean,
we're not
TikTok
dating.
can change
Like,
the way
thank
you
God we're
look
not
faster
dating,
than
bro.
Disney can.
Right.
You know, TikTok does better than Disney does as far as changing the look.
No,
Yeah.
it's insane.
So Samantha and I think Steve sort of agrees. It's just an AI thing,
AI,
for you, right?
that's the scariest possibility for me.
And is it the depths to which AI could plumb? Is that what scares you? Is that we haven't seen
I've seen Terminator,
near the worst of it,
and I know what's
or
going to
just
happen.
that Skynet's gonna
Skynet's going to go live.
right? Cyberdyne Systems going to become aware, and
Yeah.
then Skynet's going to come online.
For me, it's Star Trek and V'ger. If you remember, the whole Voyager 1 coming back as that, now dominant AI. We have sent so much stuff out. If there is something that intercepted it, who's to say that they're not using it to, reverse engineer us? That's what freaks me out about AI is the fact that we have these things and no one wants to claim that they're the one that invented the actual thing. They've just taken it and improved on it, or it came from a set of scientists. Well, what set of scientists? Where?
Is it going to be so weird that a large portion of us become genetically engineered? Some of us aren't, and then we have to hear stories about things that are like hard to believe. Like what happens if you go to work and somebody's like, I got to go to the doctor because my third pee hole hurts, and you're just sitting there going, third pee hole, and you haven't got it yet, right?
I'm looking more along the lines of
like they just haven't given you the third pee hole yet. So
I'm
now
looking
you're
at
like the odd man out. And also knowing that at some point in time you're probably going to get one. And that's scary.
look at Blade Runner.
That's what I just was saying. Yeah, Blade Runner.
Look
Or
at
have
Blade Runner.
And that's what you could even call the third
Yep.
people.
I mean, how far are we from Pegasus Corp? I mean, how far are we away from it?
Well, okay, so Bill, a worst fear scenario. What for you could be that horrible, dreadful thing that could happen? Is it the idea of aliens? Is it the idea of something else, an ulterior motive? What would it be for you?
Honestly, I think I want to give two answers here if I can. The worst fear would be it's exposed that the aliens are already here. Secret invasion that's out right now. Right. The deep swamp, the deep state, the swamp, the Masons, any of these secret societies, they've been here all along and they've been aliens.
Right.
And they've been in power.
Yep.
I think if we're gonna have something that would probably be socially disruptive, that would do it, especially to instill a horrible sense of paranoia. For example, how many people are going to be sitting there wondering if their loved one, a spouse, is one of these aliens in disguise? What if you're deep covered and you're one of those aliens in disguise? I think the paranoia can run deeper and deeper and deeper, and that to me could be socially disruptive. If you've got people who are afraid enough that they're looking at their neighbor and going, well, looks like Ronald is mowing on a Thursday and was always a Wednesday. And then all of a sudden it's okay to burn Ronald's house down, because he's obviously part of the alien insurgents. That's scary. The idea that
we'll go back 30 years, the original V.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Or alienation.
Has to be the
Yeah.
thing.
Right. Or the thing, the idea that it might be something again where we may or may not even know that we are part of it. This idea of something that could, assimilate.
I think that leads to another thing too, is that what if we're all in a simulation? That's a weird one too. I mean, that's a little bit frightening.
It's interesting that you would go into it because that is my big one. That to me is scary. And I think it's scary to me on a lot of different levels. So I don't know if anybody's read the story, and I cannot really validate it, only that I've read it. I was told that it popped up in a Psychology Today magazine at one point. So there was a college student who was walking in the quad of his college, and there were several people like playing around with a football, and one of them was actually on the football team. So they don't see him. One of the football team runs into this guy and hits him in such a way that he falls backward and he hits his head on the back of the sidewalk in the quad. So he wakes up. He's had a concussion, goes about his life, finds a girl, gets married, has kids. So one day he's sitting in his living room, and for some odd reason, he becomes fixated on the idea of a lamp in the corner of the living room appearing bigger than usual, just by a few inches at first. And he tells his wife about it and says, I don't know what's wrong with, but I get the impression that that lamp is not the same lamp that was there. And he starts to become fixated on this idea of this lamp. And the more fixated he becomes upon it, the larger he believes this lamp is growing. So his wife becomes very worried about him. He goes to a doctor. They give him a battery of tests and decide that there's nothing wrong with him. However, he comes back home to find that the lamp now is not just larger, but it's so large that it's not even on the table. It's just sort of floating in his field of vision. He's believing he's got some kind of a tumor. He's believing that there's something horribly medically wrong with him. He takes a few days off from work. He's on the couch. And one day, the lamp suddenly grows before his very eyes. It gets bigger and larger until it fills his entire field of vision. When it does, this intense bright white light jolts him awake. And as he's jolted awake, he is on a stretcher. And only seconds had passed from when he was knocked backwards from the football player in college. that this was a product of some brain injury. And we know that the brain, even given certain substances, can simulate hours that don't happen in the real world. DMT can do this.
Right. Right.
Salvia can give people trips that last sometimes for years in the span of 8 minutes. There's a popular comedian and he's been on Rogan as well as a lot of other podcasts who took salvia, had a salvia trip, and the 8-minute trip lasted in his mind for about 6 months. So this idea of, here I am in my life, I have loved ones, I have a family, I have a child, all of that. So all stuff that I hold very, very dear. I think the idea of that being a computer simulation, to me, is probably the most frightening thing. This idea that this has all been a ruse, that this is all part of some, whether it's an elaborate game or whether it's an elaborate moneymaker. Maybe the real me, when I was ready to die, paid X amount of money, and here I am now on this particular server, and I wanted it to be a very real experience, so I get shit on regularly, because if I didn't, then I would find out that this was indeed a simulation. I'd try to get out, but the fact that it's realistic makes me believe that this is the real world. That kind of, I think, that level, the level of deceit, to me, is staggeringly terrifying. That we might, first of all, might not be in a primary reality. And I know a lot of people have come forward and said that there's a high probability that we're not.
Yeah.
There's a higher probability that we are in a tangent reality or simulated reality, that probability is way higher than us being in a prime reality.
Well, Ash, isn't that religion? I mean, the afterlife, this is just the thing to get us to the afterlife.
And that might be our way of explaining the simulation.
Right.
The fact that, there are powers that control this, which would be whatever architects, whatever developers, whatever coders, whatever, they would be that God to us. They would be that godlike entity because they would have the ability to control our reality, our matter. They would have the ability to control all of it. And I think that strange disconnection from like ego, who we are, that disconnection from what we do, what we love, that scares me. That, all of this UFO stuff could really just be, we've got a bad string of code people and we don't know what to do with it. There's a virus in the simulation, and damn it, we don't have a patch for it yet.
Yeah, there's the Hunger Games.
AI.
Yeah, we're in the Hunger Games, and there's just a room full of computers, and people are just throwing out, whatever obstacle we're supposed to see in the Hunger Games today.
Yeah,
Right.
And I think that goes back to, I mean, let's face it, we are sort of a conundrum. Like humans, we don't really fit in. We don't really fit into this life model. We're not very adaptive physically, right? I mean, a lot of animals that are in where they're supposed to be geographically, as far as this animal is indigenous to this region, there's a reason for it usually. Whether it's the weather, the temperature, certain environmental factors, if they're needing a certain kind of water, etc. Like they're in that place for a reason, right? And even though we migrate, for the most part, we're extremely vulnerable. Like extremely vulnerable. Like we are an organism that we absolutely have to alter our environment for our survival. We have to make that happen. And then, I mean, let's face it, if we weren't really on the face of this planet, there wouldn't be raccoons going, well, fuck, looks like we're all doomed because another apex predator went. It wouldn't matter. Like we're not really in that chain where we would see global destruction if we weren't around. Like we really wouldn't see the breaks in the chain that we see now, we've caused. Like we're the ones causing the breaks in the chains. We would not be a break in the chain. So all of that is stuff that I guess that sort of bothers me, that lends itself to this weird model that, it's like, what really are we? I mean, what do we really do? We chronicle. We have that kind of importance. We are an entity that is able to historically chronicle time.
And we can't learn from it, though.
Right. We can't learn from it.
We can't learn from
it. And deer and lizards don't give a shit about it.
Right.
So it's not like we're doing something that's essential. This is the fastest hour on the internet. I want to thank Bill Howard so much for being here. Bill, could you please tell everyone where they can find your films, when the next one is coming out, and what you'll be doing next, and how people can learn about what you'll be doing next?
Sure. So the one we've talked about mostly was Something Walks in the Woods. It's on Tubi, Vudu, Apple TV. It just got picked up with Sling today. Your general run. Easier to find on Tubi than anything, probably. And plus, it's free. The Incredulous Case of Aliens, U.S. Government, and Arnie Smith will be on Tubi very soon. Right now, it's on POV Horror. And The Great Dismal will also be on Tubi very soon, probably in the next couple of weeks max, as well as Amazon Prime. I've got a sequel to Something Walks in the Woods coming out, and I've got another narrative film called The Plantation that I am currently in pre-production with and doing casting, depending on what happens with the SAG strikes and that type of stuff as well. But yeah, that's where we're at, and I'm also working on some TV shows that has nothing to do with what we've discussed tonight.
Well, we can't thank you enough for your time, and we can't thank you enough for being able to come on and just speculate with us tonight and talk about some things that interest us. So for everyone that came on, thank you so much. And for everyone that came on tonight, everyone that was in our chat, thanks again. You got just a couple moments for us off the air, Bill?
Yeah.
Okay. For everyone looking to find Night Terrors Radio next week, who the hell knows? We might be on, we might not. But what we will try to do is keep you informed and give you entertainment when, where, and why it happens. This has been Night Terrors Radio. I'm Ash Hamilton along with Rob Pastilli, Chode McCrappen,
Chode McCrappen,
and Samantha. Thank you so much for watching.
Thanks, guys.